You know how we say that camp is great at helping build decision makers, grow independence, and help kids kind of figure out how to navigate the world on their own? I think we can do better. Since the 1960s, there's been a clear decline in both play and in kids' decision making, in their agency, in their ability to think that they have control over their lives. And I think they're linked, and I think that camp is the perfect place to start to solve that problem.
Over the same decades that play has been declining, we have seen a well-documented increase in all sorts of mental disorders in childhood. We've also seen a decline in the sense that young people's sense that they have control over their own lives. There's a questionnaire called the Internal-External Locus of Control Scale. There's a version of this for children as well as for adults. It's been given since about 1960. Ever since it's been given, we've seen a decline, a continuous decline in children and young adults' sense that they have control over their own lives.
Like Peter said, kids largely don't believe that they have control over their lives. They think, and I think they're right, that grown-ups are mostly playing puppet master. The problem is that if we don't learn how to make decisions, because decision making is a skill, then we're not going to get good at it. It's like basketball. If we don't shoot enough free throws, we're never going to make that free throw, right? And so if we don't give kids a chance to learn how to make decisions by making them, not by following directions, then they're going to grow up to not really feel and not be very good at making decisions. I'm Jack Schott. I run Stomping Ground. It's a camp I founded with Laura Kriegel, and I help facilitate the Summer Camp Society with Sarah Kurtz. The Summer Camp Society is an organization, it's a group, we're bad at explaining what it is. The thing is, it's a bunch of young-ish camp people that get together and talk about cool stuff online and then in person. You can check out all of our stuff. But before any of that, I drove around the country visiting camps with Laura. We packed up Laura's Honda Civic. See it here or here? I'm not sure where it's going to end up, either here or here, but you'll see it if you wait for it. That right there is when we pull a mattress out of the back. We slept in our car for 2 years. It was incredible, it was wild, and mostly we ate a lot of peanut butter and jelly, but we got to see some really awesome stuff. And this is kind of how we tell that story now.
Almost a decade of working at camps, Laura and I packed up our Honda Civic and hit the road. What started as a short trip turned into a 3-year research project searching for the most promising ideas in youth development. We saw over 150 summer camps, visited 46 states, and drove over 100,000 miles. We spoke at dozens of conferences and met some of the most compassionate people on the planet. Our trip led us down a path of learning from summer camps, museums, playgrounds, schools, learning communities, conferences, countless books, and hundreds of conversations. We found self-determination theory, a theory of motivation that posits all people are curious and motivated when their physical and psychological needs are met. We were exposed to Peter Gray's work on evolutionary psychology, and how children learn best when they're free to play. We learned to constantly ask why and start with first principles in decision making. We stumbled upon mindfulness, restorative justice, nonviolent communication, and so many more life-changing ideas. Maybe most importantly, we found friends and co-founders for Stomping Ground. The ideas and people we encountered opened our eyes to a new way of living, connecting, and working with people of all ages. We were determined to open a camp where we would strive for kids and staff to be treated the way they wanted to be treated, where we could all be free to play and learn in a community based on trust, empathy, and constant growth. Stomping Ground is an overnight camp dedicated to these ideals. We start from the idea that all people are equal and never stop trying to reimagine a more perfect world at camp. Camp is full of swimming, food fights, and magical memories where lifelong friendships can be formed. We have campers who never want to leave the makerspace, stop playing soccer, or come back from magical lands. All of this is built on a foundation of people in a self-directed community living and learning to love themselves and others. I hope you'll join us this summer.
So my kind of clickbaity title, right, is that we need structure, not control. Structure, not control. What I mean is, when we say, kids, you have to go to archery, or you have to go to the pool, you have to go to high ropes, that's controlling. We're choosing for them what to do. We're saying, I know what's best for you because I'm the adult. And a lot of times we do know more or what's better or all kinds of things that kids don't know. But I think a lot of times we just get into the habit of thinking we know what's best for kids because some other times we do know what's best for kids. Think about it. Most of us say camp isn't about hitting the bullseye at archery, or a lot of times we say camp isn't about the activities, it's about the people, it's about the relationships, it's about the experience. But then we still force kids to go do these activities that we're saying aren't that important or don't matter that much. And then we come up with things like we're saying we're teaching grit or we're doing all these other things. And that might be the goal. That might be what we're trying to do. But if the goal is to build more decision makers, to help kids be better at making decisions, then I think we have it backwards. I think we have a huge opportunity at camp to reshape what we're doing, to change from a place where we have kids that have to go do all these things, to giving kids a huge amount more opportunity to make choices and therefore learn what it's like to live with those choices, to work through those choices, to build decision makers at camp as opposed to cogs in a machine or kind of learning rote skills. What I want to do instead of figuring out ways to better control kids or manage their behavior is figure out ways to give them a structure, to give them a framework where they can play and live and make decisions that don't negatively impact other folks, but also don't have to always be controlled by us. I'm not talking about Lord of the Flies. I'm not talking about saying, kids, go do whatever you want. I'm saying, how can we pause and think for a second, what do we care about? And if we care about this decision making, how can we build a structure that's safe and comfortable for kids, that removes anxiety, that lets kids know what's going to happen in the future so it's predictable so they can react to it ahead of time, but that doesn't say they have to go do these things just because we, the grown-ups, think it's best all the time. And there's going to be exceptions. There's going to be times where people have to do things or they need to be done because that's the world that we live in and that's the reality of camp. But how can we be more honest and open with kids about what we're really asking for them to do? So that's structure versus control. Structure is repeatable events that kids can imagine what's going to happen and prepare for them, which reduces anxiety and lets them learn how to make decisions. Control is we, the central controllers, the grown-ups, the deciders, we tell them what they need to be doing. And both might have their place. If the goal of camp is to do one specific thing or get much better at gymnastics, control might be better. We just might be better at helping someone get better at gymnastics than they would be on their own. But with decisions, if that's the goal, I think we need to do better. Okay. Now Laura's gonna drop some knowledge!
In social work, we call this empowering campers or people to use their own human agency to define their life course. You know, you have protective factors and risk factors, and the goal is to help people identify and increase protective factors so that when risk factors come along, like stressful situations, you understand that you are powerful enough to get through them.
My girl's wicked smart! All right, in the next section we're going to talk about sandboxes and how this stuff actually happens at camp. I'll see you there.